All right, hear me out here. I don't think we're out of it. We're gonna have to do a lot of work to get a result in Paris, and the PSG are definitely the team more likely to advance now. But it's not as though we can't come back from this. I can take some encouragement from the fact that the women went down 2-1 to Lyon in their semifinal and produced a great performance in Lyon to end up winning the tie and going to the Champions League final, which might not happen in this game, but it gives me some hope. But there are some things that need to improve. I should talk about just how impressive PSG were because they again showed just how skilled of a squad they are. And it is really impressive how quickly they have come together and produced something like this, where they can create such a really threatening opportunities and where they have this know how and experience in Europe despite having a very young team. And they were criticized a lot for letting 3 goals in against Villa in the second leg, and rightly so, because they scored 2 goals early, and it seemed like they had pretty much effectively put the tie away, and then they let Aston Villa back into it, and they very nearly let Aston Villa back in to the point that they could have tied the game or tied the aggregate and gone to extra time. But then they did something different, and I think that was when I realized that PSG actually aren't quite as naive as they might be considering how young the squad is. Because when Aston Villa had gotten their third goal, PSG switched tact and they started to do passing drills and they held possession. They didn't let Aston Villa get the ball, they tired them out, and they showed that kind of experience and know how you need to advance in Europe. And I think they actually had a very mature performance at the end of the Aston Villa game. They'd had their scare, but then when it really came down to it, they produced the right style of play that they needed to advance. And I think that I was actually quite impressed by how PSG played at the end of that. But I still don't know if I quite gave them credit for just how good they are. And I saw that in full force tonight, where they would have the ball at midfield, and within seconds, it felt like they had sliced through our defense and created a goal scoring opportunity. And were maybe fortunate that it was only 1-0 because they created some really good opportunities. Declan Rice actually, I think, was partially at fault for that first goal. It was just a really nice shot from Dembele, but also I feel like he should have been covering Dembele, and Dembele didn't really have anyone on him, and so he had the opportunity to shoot, and he scored a great, curled left foot shot. But I still feel like Rice should have had that covered. But PSG had a lot of really good opportunities, and it took Arsenal about 30 minutes to really even get going in the game because for those first 30 minutes, it really did feel like PSG were playing an entirely different game of football, and we were completely useless against them. And again, we're probably lucky it was only 1-0. But as we got into the game, we started to win 50-50 balls and even created a few decent opportunities. Unfortunately, Donnarumma made 2 pretty impressive saves as well. And I don't even think Martinelli and Trossard had bad shots, but Donnarumma is pretty good. And that does worry me a bit for the second leg because even though PSG created more chances, I think that those 2 chances that Martinelli and Trossard got actually were really good opportunities, and maybe they should have scored that as well. But Donnarumma came up really big, and Donnarumma is quite a tall guy in general. That helped out a lot. Like he was able to reach out and block the balls that again weren't bad shots. So I'm a bit worried about how we're gonna beat Donnarumma. Uh, but we did get a goal in the game. It was offsides. I don't actually like how we set up for free kicks that much because this happens a lot where I don't really entirely know how to explain it. Like our opponent's defensive line is like here, and all of our players start here, and then right before the ball's kicked, they try and run back towards that line. But quite often that means we just get caught off sides, and that's what happened this time. And Moreno was offsides, so and yet it didn't come to anything. And set pieces might be where we have our best opportunities. And certainly we create a few all right opportunities from set pieces. Nothing as good as that free kick, which was a beautiful delivery from Rice. I'm starting to think that Rice might just end up being the one who takes free kicks permanently for us now, because he can apparently both score from them, but also has some decent deliveries that might see him replace Odegaard as our free kick taker. I do want to shout out two players from tonight in Miles Lewis Skelly and William Saliba. Saliba has faced some criticism for his fairly egregious errors that have led to goals in two of the last three games. And I treated that as mistakes that shouldn't define a player as good as Saliba, because he is absolutely world class. And he showed that tonight and got right back up to what we expect from him and the standard he's set over the last few seasons. And there was one moment, I forget which player was in on goal, PSG had what looked like it was going to be a one-on-one shot and probably would have been a goal, and Saliba came in with a perfectly timed tackle. And I think that's something Saliba has that not too many defenders do have, is just that ability to time his tackles perfectly. And he stopped something that probably should have been a goal. He did really well there. But I also want to shout out Lewis Skelly, who is continuing to impress me all the time. And it's really fun to see Lewis Skelly come into his own. And I think there's just like, his physical presence is really good. Like, he is out muscling players. And a few times he got to balls that he maybe had no business getting to, because he had the force to kind of just push PSG players out of the way or hold them back, whatever he needs to do to get on that ball. And he did really well again today. I remember seeing that tweet that's like, Lewis Skelly's going to be at Derby County in 2 years on loan. Like, I honestly think that Lewis Skelly is going to be at Arsenal for a long time. He still has some issues with his discipline, which isn't surprising for an 18-year-old player, but he's growing and playing really well with every game and improving. And I really do think Lewis Skelly is going to have a future with us. Um, so frustrating night, but PSG again showed how good they are, and actually probably should have had more. They, at the end of the game, kind of just mid blocked, which, if they do that at the Parc des Princes, then we're done. We can't. We have shown time and time again that we can't break mid blocks. And I'm really scared that we're going to go out of the Champions League because of a mid block. And if that happens, I will be really upset. I am so tired of seeing us lose to mid blocks, and it feels like it could very well happen again. I'm scared because we had to work pretty hard for the chances we got, and we did actually create two really good chances that Donnarumma had covered. But PSG have this ability to create something from nothing, and not just like half chances, like really good chances. They're really fast, and their speed down the wings, down the middle, their front three is insane. And we saw what they can do against Villa, where they can score from range, and again tonight, where they can score from anywhere on the pitch. And it is a really terrifying thing to go up against. And so that's what scares me most about going to the Parc des Princes. I think that we can get back into it. It's only a 1 goal deficit, but when PSG are capable of, creating something out of what seems like absolutely nothing, it's really scary and hard to go against. And we've had to work really hard for the goals. But if we didn't get 1 goal, and it's not out of the question that we get 1 goal, I think it's a possibility. I don't know if I want to go to penalties, because I think Donnarumma would be better at penalties than Raya, but I think we have an opportunity. I, in my very limited tactical awareness, kind of wonder if we should just really go hard on that right side. See if we can get that White Odegaard Saka connection that worked so well for us last season. And I do think if we can get Ben White on the ball more, he hasn't gotten to play that much this season. He's been sidelined with an injury for a lot of it, but he is really good at crossing the ball, and we can maybe use that. I don't like. One of our issues last time was we were a bit one dimensional. Is that so many of our attacks are coming down that right side, but it clearly does work, and maybe we have to go with what works, even if it makes us one dimensional for one game, if it means we can beat PSG. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. Not a great game, and PSG do just look really impressive, but I am holding on to just a little snippet of hope. And if the women's team can do it, then so can the men's. And that's what is gonna at least keep a smile on my face for now.